the core is to come up with your core product value, the unique thing that your product will bring to the market that is different than all the other products, and really focus on that and get that to where you have it about, I would say about 80% built out. So you've made a set of assumptions, maybe a set of beliefs you have just because you're, I believe the best products come from you as the product person feeling the pain first, and if you've experienced that pain, you can use that as the core to build the initial feature set. Once you have that initial feature set, pretty well refined, but maybe not in the exact implementation that you think consumers will want, that's when you actually start to iterate. So you've got a core value around the product. You can easily demonstrate what that value is. It may not be perfect, it may not be refined, but you can put it in front of someone and they can pretty quickly understand, oh, this is what I'm going to do with this thing. Here's why I would use it. Here's the value. And then your iterations are really designed to optimize, how quickly can you get someone on board? How quickly can you get them doing the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you want them to do with the product? And that process is actually pretty straightforward. So I'm a big believer in Agile and Scrum methodologies. I've actually been practicing Scrum since like 2002. I think the thing that's great about Scrum is there are some really great tools that help you think about what you're building in the context of a user. So sort of you can structure each group of features as what are these particular things that we could build? What is the user able to achieve with these things? So you sort of move from the process of building features to building utility for the user, and I think that's really important. So we use Agile Zen, which is a piece of software that can sit in between GitHub and sort of you and your team. We use that to write user stories. We actually connect it up to GitHub, so you can, when you're checking code in, you can attach it to a particular story. So almost every check-in attaches to a story. So we're making sure that we're really focused on just building things that touch the user, as opposed to just building features that an individual team member thinks are useful or wants to build. And so I think that piece of the process is really great at eliminating all of the non-essential things that you could build that really don't add value to the user. So that's the first piece, sort of putting some systems in place. And then in terms of process, we sit down on a weekly basis and we talk about, what did we do last week? What are we hoping to achieve this week with a set of features? Or what did we learn from last week? How's that affecting what we're going to do this week? And then lately what we've been doing is doing 2-day sprints where we'll build out a set of features, and then we'll schedule a day or several user testing sessions where we'll sit down with users and we'll give them a little bit of guidance, sort of structure the session a little bit so we're getting feedback around the area of the product that we're focused on, and then basically collect data, debrief at the end of that day, analyze the data, and then figure out, okay, what are we going to do for the next 2 days? So we're sort of creating this week-long cycle that usually has 2 kind of micro sprints in it. And at the end of it, we wind up having learned a lot about the decisions we've made, the bets we've made around the product. Are they right? Are they wrong? Are we sort of getting closer and closer to that perfect product market fit? And it's been pretty useful. We also do, one of the things that keeps everybody on board with what's happening is a daily stand-up. So this is something we picked up from the Scrum and Agile methodologies. Basically, regardless of what you're working on or what team, we actually do, because the company is only like 5 people, we do like an all-company stand-up where in 10 minutes everybody goes around and talks about like what they worked on yesterday, what they're working today, and then we course correct and sort of reallocate tasks and resources based on who's got free time and who doesn't, or if someone's stuck with something and they need help, they kind of throw it out in that meeting. So that process allows us to move really quickly and be adaptive based on sort of what we're learning on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. At some point, if you've iterated a bunch and you're not getting any closer to your goals, you have to be very unattached to why. So you have to really think about, is it the product, it just isn't the right product? Is it the market timing is off? Is it technically not something users want, which is sort of a market risk question also. Have you not been able to access the market in the right way? So there's a series of questions you would ask. And then depending on those answers, you're sort of at an inflection point at sort of when you feel like you've got enough customers interested in the product, like you've sort of out of ideas to iterate around at this phase, and the product is either taking off or not taking off. If it's taking off, then the strategy is grow the business, go get new investment to acquire users or scale the business in whatever way it needs to be scaled. And then the other option is like, hey, let's pivot. Let's like the market is smaller than we thought it was. It's harder to access. We're going to need way more capital to access to really take advantage of this. Or there's a new market entrant that's just crushing us for some reason. Those are all great reasons to pivot. And I think the fundamental difference between pivoting and iteration is that like iteration is like refining your message and refining your product and sort of really honing that last 20% of it to sort of set it up into the marketplace in the best possible way. Pivot is a full 90-degree orthogonal, like we're fundamentally changing what we do. We started out doing X and we're now doing B because this is, we're going to take the team we have built and the resources we have, and we're just going to come up with some new idea and basically go back through that product development and iteration cycle with that new idea. You're sort of totally switching horses mid-race at that point. So really think about like where am I in the life cycle of this product? Am I at the investment stage, the iteration phase, or the sort of scale and or pivot stage, depending on the outcome of the first two phases? And I think that if you keep that in mind, like you'll be you're able to sort of quiet the noise of like what should I do at any given moment, because in the investment phase it's very clear you're building the core value of the property. In the iteration phase, it's very clear you're taking the core set of features you have and trying to optimize them for the outcomes that you want. And in the pivoting or scaling, it's really how do we get, in the scaling phase, it's really about how do we lower, our customer acquisition costs or increase our growth in a way that is that leverages whatever force multipliers we can put into the mix. And in a pivoting strategy, it's okay, we learned a bunch of stuff, none of it worked. What are the lessons we learned, and then can we take those lessons and leverage them in a new direction and new product with the team we have?